Okay, so we're live. Today is Inspiring Leadership and Team Building with Robyn Raines from the Southwest Virginia
4-H Educational Center.
Yes, and Craig
Kufka.
Anyway, we're happy to have you here today, and I think we're going to have a really great program. So, without further ado, Inspiring Leadership.
All right. Well, we're really happy to be here today, and I think we would just like to start out. We'll introduce ourselves, and then go around the room and just hear who you are and kind of what brought you here today, and if you have any experience in any type of leadership development or team building. Actually, let's go around the room first, and then we'll introduce ourselves. You mind starting?
Nice. My name's Robyn Raines. I'm with Teleperformance in Marion. So we're a call center. Yes, we do have experience with the team building and leadership, but it's one of those things I don't think you can ever know it all about it. So that's kind of what led us here today, to learn as much as we can.
Okay, wonderful.
My name is Kevin Seuss. I'm also with Teleperformance in Marion. Aside from, as she mentioned, our team building experiences for our organization, I was also involved years ago to my association with JC's development there.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm Rebecca McCready. I'm also with Teleperformance in Marion.
I'm Joy Brumley. I work with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and we work with a lot of communities, a lot of town councils, local governments, nonprofits, and oftentimes trying to do team building and leadership development in those communities and organizations.
Hi, I'm Peg Ayers, and I've just opened a new company, Ayers & Company Consulting, and I am focused on leadership development and team building and that sort of thing, so I came to get your perspective.
I'm Matthew Johnson. I'm plan director for the town of Abingdon, and I do a lot of similar types of functions that Joy just spoke about, only just with one community. So looking forward to it.
Okay, great. As y'all are sitting down, I'm going to introduce yourself.
I'm Amy Blevins. I'm the HR manager at Alliance Community Services. This is the rest of most of the rest of the HR team.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm Edwards, HR specialist.
Great. Whitney Archer. Great. HR is okay. All right. So I'm Robyn Raines. I'm the center director out at the Southwest Virginia 4-H Educational Center, and I've been there about 3 years. We've really worked hard. The center's been there a long time. We started camping there in 1960, and we're most famous for serving as 4-H camp for the 13 counties across Southwest Virginia. But one of my missions and goals since I've been at the 4-H Center is to really increase what we're doing on a year-round basis. And last year, thanks to the Leadership Washington County program, what we do with team building and our ropes courses specifically got kind of a needed shot in the arm. And so I'm excited to be here and talk more. I want to also first introduce our program director. This is Craig McCookka. You want to tell about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been at the 4-H Center for about 2 years now, and did a little bit of team building at my previous job as an environmental educator, but now since I've been program director, I have been trained and certified, which I will talk a little bit more about my certification and kind of my credentials on that side. So looking forward to talking today, and kind of, we got a great stuff that we got going on over at the 4-H Center with the ropes course and team building stuff, so it's good to come and share that with you guys today.
Okay. So I want to do an exercise first before everybody gets too deep into their lunches. So we're going to kind of start on our feet, and then we're going to end on our feet. So you will have time to eat your lunch, I promise, okay? So if the folks that are in the room, and I guess if you are watching this on YouTube, you can pretend in the room you're in. To start with something called a character continuum exercise. So if all of you all will make your way to the inside circle, or the inside horseshoe here. And don't be afraid. We know everyone's dressed for work today, but no fear.
I'm very shy. What were we doing? Taking everybody to
yeah, everyone in,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
inside the horseshoe.
Okay.
You can make a curved line, that's fine. We are going to stay in line formation. That'll help with the comfort level. Yeah. Actually, it was funny when we got here, the tables that were in the center of the room, we teased that that could have been our first problem. Like, okay, we need, we can't talk and we can't, all of these things. Okay, so what I want us to do is pretend like kind of where Matthew is 50%. Okay, he's the middle point. This is going to be very strong one direction, and this kind of corner of the table is going to be very strong in the opposite of what I say. Okay, so I want you, as I'm going to tell you what the two poles are. Okay, like if I was saying like red and blue. If you feel like you're super red, you're going to go this way. If you feel like you're about 75% red or 50% red or 100% blue, you're going to go this way. Okay, give the first. Okay, so we're going to start with terms that you've probably heard anytime you've done any kind of team building or personality measures or anything. Introvert and extrovert. Okay, so here, this corner is an extrovert. 50% is there, and this edge is introvert.
Where's introvert?
Right here. Introvert's right here. So in thinking about this is total extrovert.
And then you can be in the middle too.
You can be in the middle, but let's keep ourselves in a line. Okay. Well, actually, no, you're fine. That's fine. Just yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. Now we're going to make this side competitive. This side non-competitive. If you had to describe yourself, where do you fall? Very highly competitive, or highly competitive is this side. If you're highly competitive, if you feel like you're not very competitive, this side. Okay.
I only compete with myself. Does that mean that I'm not?
Yeah, it's, and all the time in activities like this, it is perspective that, your take on things, right? Okay, so now, this side, decisive, and this side, indecisive.
I'm not going to get clues.
I can't decide.
Say right now.
Can't decide.
Okay, now, let's see. This side, if you're someone who you hold on to things, okay? And this side is if you can let things go quickly.
Emotionally or if
No, not things, not objects, but more like emotions. Like, do you take things very personal? That's this side. If you kind of, let it roll off easy, that's
I don't let it roll off easy, but I let it roll off. It takes me about a week. I'm in the middle.
My dad described once to an ex-boyfriend of mine that I might forgive, but I don't forget. That's how he described me to him.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So now, this side of the room, find it easy to approach new people. This side of the room, hard to approach new people. Okay. So, kind of mixing it up again. This side of the room, public speaking is easy. This side of the room, public speaking is hard. Okay. Now, let's have this side of the room, you would describe yourself, we'll say you would describe yourself, not others describing you, as eccentric. And this side, conventional. Okay. Now, sometimes this happens. I'm usually, that person. Okay, this side of the room, intense. This side of the room considers easygoing. So intense, easygoing.
There's so many things I'm intense about, but there's so many things I'm like,
yeah, like come up with a topic that Okay, and one last one just for fun. Water sports or land activities?
we got both.
Well, then this year's it.
No one's told me water.
Okay. know this is a lunchtime series, so we'll not keep you on your feet and letting food get cold. Okay, so kind of going back to our topic today, the little blurb that was on the flyer that I hope got some of your all's attention. Powerful leaders impact the success of projects, teams, and organizations. Learn how to inspire teams to achieve challenging goals and produce the best from employees. Anyone want to take a few guesses at what that character continuum sort of displays when you're in a group of folks that you're working together with? What are some things that you can get out of that?
Pairing strengths and weaknesses.
Strengths and weaknesses. And kind of going off a little bit, not so much strengths and weaknesses in that, but almost preferences, right? So we tend to fall, we're not always going to fall all the way to one side or the other in every angle, right? That we're going to, there's going to be some things that we, let's say I'm a very strong introvert, I'm a very fast decision maker, and so the different preferences and what the different preferences each member of a team brings to the table, right? And when doing an activity like that brings a little bit of physicality to it, you find folks that you may not have the opportunity to work with on a day-to-day basis, but you may find some people in the room, hey, I think he and I or she and I would have a lot in common. It might be helpful if you are a supervisor or a leader in the group to also just visually kind of see where, like, it may all add up. If someone feels this, and this about themselves, maybe the fact that you've asked them to do, if there's somebody, I didn't say this one, but if you prefer to work alone versus work in a team, if there's someone who steps over quickly to that side of, I always love to work in a team, and the last 3 or 4 projects you've had them do or work alone, it may add up a little bit on stretching them to their limit. It was interesting when I first saw this exercise. I thought that this was an exercise that you can kind of do at all walks of life. You can do it with kids. You can make up what your angles are to learn a lot about the group that you're working with or dealing with. And I also like thinking about how when you push people out of their preferences or their comfort zones, what you're really asking. I think sometimes as leaders, we get focused on, it's good to push people, but I heard it described to me as sometimes, if you think about it like the way a rubber band works, right? That, yes, it can do the work, but if you're always asking someone to go out of their comfort zone, they get stretched out and stressed out, in other words, okay? So I just wanted to kind of start with a softer activity to kind of get us going. And to know that there's truly no right or wrong. I feel like, you talked about you do have experience with leadership programs and team building, but there's always more out there to learn. And it is something that there's so many, theories and topics and ways of kind of finding out the same information or going toward the same goal. I personally have been very interested from a pretty young age of kind of leadership development and team building, and what the benefits are when you spend the time working on team building. I think also kind of the beauty of that exercise is, that there is beauty in the fact that we're all different, right? And there's very, very few, I can't think off the top of my head, any field of work out there that you're really looking for only folks with only this. They talk about the creative culture and kind of the beauty in, a wider variety of flexibility and talent pool and opportunities there. So how many of you feel like you currently work in an environment that spends time on personal leadership building or team building, or give you those opportunities? Okay. Okay, good. Either direction there, why or why not do you think your current environment allows for that? And maybe what are some things that you already are doing? Those that raise your hand that your environment does provide personal leadership development or team building, why do you think they do that, and what are some of the activities that you do? Anybody?
I didn't raise my hand, but I can speak on that.
Sure.
If a company does that, they're investing in their employees, and they're wanting to keep people around, they're trying to improve their culture, and it's a very good thing to do. People feel vindicated, they feel like they're appreciated, and they'll stick around a little bit longer too.
Okay. I think that's a great point. Any of you all who didn't raise your hand, why are some of the reasons not, do you think?
It's the exact opposite of what I just said.
Any other thoughts on why or why not? Any examples of some things that you all are already doing with leadership development or team building?
I think both sides of the coin, it's time, so it's,
Time's a big
the
one.
why they're not is usually a time issue of, I can't find the time, and the ones that are, the reason they are is because time is what's going to get the improvement by investing the time.
And resources.
Right, and resources, so, we try to meet with every employee every week to just check them and make sure they're doing well. And
That's a big deal. You meet with every employee every week.
Oh, that's the goal.
That's the goal, I understand. Okay. Any other thoughts other than time and that kind of investment in HR? Any things that, why they do, why they don't?
I think some of it is an opportunity for them to vindicate themselves when they feel that they can excel in something, giving them the chance to work at it.
Sure. I recently, I'm a part of the Management Academy program through Virginia Tech this semester, and we had the opportunity to do an emotional intelligence work survey. And it's so interesting, changing, your strengths, and you don't call it weaknesses anymore. You talk about development goals. And I think a good, strong team building program really does have that personal leadership angle to it. I think it's important to give those assets, the time for you to think about your individual. And I really do talk about preferences almost more than strengths and weaknesses, because I feel like the more that I learn about myself, and that, you talked to Kathy about competing with yourself. I mean, things that you learn about yourself that then just make it that much stronger to bring it to the table. And then when you have, sometimes I feel like in team building, activities are done and there's not the proper amount of time to process it or come back to it. And I feel like you miss out a whole lot, because during that processing is when you learn those things about yourself or about a team member that you would have never learned before. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I think time is huge. I think also, this being a little bit of a hot topic, leadership development, team building, I think it also lends toward, and there's actually a quote on the dry erase board as we walked in the door today about change. And I think that there's an angle of this that usually also is coinciding with developing and or changing culture in the workplace or on the sports team or whatever group. Because I hope that today there will just be some little nuggets that you can take with you that you could take back to either your office or maybe even your family, like a much smoother way to run Thanksgiving dinner, or your child's sports team, those kinds of things, because I think that a lot of this is useful. But it's interesting, I think that developing and or changing culture is a big deal to kind of be aware of, especially if you're introducing leadership development as a new thing or team building. And the best way I heard this in the past year in talking about implementing change, and when you are in a leadership position and change is on the horizon, of the moment where you unfreeze everything, you change things, and then you freeze it with the change. And in thinking about that, in the leaders that you are hoping to develop within your organization or on that team, and then building the team. I also just wanted to say that I feel like in the ideal world, in your annual kind of work plan, whether it's HR or if you have an HR department, or if you're a smaller organization and you wear many hats, is to really have an short-term and long-term plan for leadership development and team building. I feel like another place where we sometimes sell ourselves short in either area is not enough time on pre-assessment for people to get ready for what activity is going to happen, and then also not enough time for follow-up or other activities. I feel like also in that ideal world, coming back to some sort of leadership support or team building activity once every quarter would be really a beautiful thing. And I think that there are different ways you can think about that. I think bringing your entire organization together and then doing breakout sessions so that you're not losing, because I know when you're presenting this maybe to the CEO of your company, there is a lot of questions about time, efficiency, how do we get the work done that we need to get done, how are we going to pay for this, all of those good questions. But I'm a true believer in what you said. At the end of the day, this helps create a place that people want to work and be a part of, because it feels like you are investing in them as a human. And I know for me, that word, inspiring, I have always been way more excited to work for someone that I feel like is sort of not just constantly challenging me, but like kind of giving me enough opportunities to grow and learn and invest in the team. Okay?
Robyn, and this might not be the right time to ask
No,
the
it's
question,
fine.
but, a lot of times I see situations where the leaders of an organization aren't team building, and so the subordinates have to figure out, they have a job that they love, they think it's wonderful, but their own leaders are not strong leaders. So the subordinates then have to kind of build a team around the team, if you will. How do you address that and still not get in a suit with the higher ups?
That is an excellent question. Anyone else in this room who would like to chime in, feel free. I think, Craig hears me say this a lot, that, choose your battles wisely. And I think, for me, there is a lot of information out there about the benefits of this. So I would just, kind of come with a pretty strong case and maybe some success stories. And maybe also address some weaknesses that you see and how it could improve efficiency and improve overall performance. It's really hard if there isn't any type of open door policy or performance review. I mean, I think if you have a performance review, sometimes waiting 11 months to get to there again. But these are the kinds of things that I feel like are worth saying. That you came to a new lunch series and you heard this conversation, and have as many be ready for the questions, then not choosing your own battle. I often also say, anticipate what the cons are going to be. Anticipate what the questions are going to be and how to solve that. And sometimes at the end of the day, you have to say, well, I just feel like this is a really good idea, and I know we don't have it all figured out, but it would be worth something to look at. I was in an instance once where I was down at the Penland School of Crafts and in their core fellowship program, and it was a 9-person program. Each year there were 4 new 4 new inductees into the program, and you lived there and worked for 2 years. And when I was new, I was one of 4, and when I got to we were supposed to go to the house we were going to live in. I got there, not one person was at home, and I had never been in the house, and it's a weird old house, and I couldn't find any door with my name on it. So I actually got back in the car questioning whether I had made up being accepted into the program. I quit my job, and I had everything I owned in my car, so I was really hoping I hadn't daydreamed it. But anyway, the next year, when we were getting ready for the new folks to arrive, I was the one that said, you know, let's do a dinner. Let's do a welcome dinner. We need to all be in the house. We need to be clear on what times folks need to arrive. And then I also led just what you can find online version of True Colors, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Like, to talk about, you know, what we all are doing there, because this was not right out of college situation. This were all adults. You know, I had roommates, men and women, ranging from 25 years old to 50 years old. So, I mean, it was, and I'm telling you, I was in pure panic sitting back out in my car, and then someone pulled up and they're like, hey, we're so glad you're here. And I was like, where's my room? That's just kind of an example of that situation. And I guess I'm someone who, I'm a team player, but sometimes if I have figured out a direction and all the reasons I think I want to do something, it's going to be kind of hard to pull me off the fence. But I usually have those answers figured out. So that's a roundabout kind of answer to that question, or thought on that question. But that is a hard position. And it also may even be worth, if you think the work needs to be done with coworkers and you don't feel like you're stepping out of bounds too much, maybe have some after-work social activity where you just bring up the idea and then, you know, get others involved. But I understand you don't want to cause yourself trouble in the workplace. If you have an HR team, maybe you should present it to an HR team. Okay. So I already talked a little about this, but I want to do just a quick, does everyone have paper? If you don't have paper, Craig can hand you some paper and a pen. So what I want you to do...
You sure? What does you know?
What I want you to do is I want you to think back to leaders that you've had in your lives, okay? And now, you know, I would like to prefer to use, you know, like leader, coach, not boss, supervisor, manager. You know, those words sometimes can have negative connotations according to which boss you're talking about. So think about a former leader or boss or supervisor or coach in your life. And I want you to think about one of those leaders that you thought was a really great. Who was the best? And some qualities about that person. And then I want you to do the same thing. I want you to think about the worst leader you've ever worked under. Okay? And write the qualities that stand out of what made them your worst. We're only going to spend a couple minutes on this, okay? So one side you're thinking about that best leader you've ever had. The other side you're thinking about the worst. Okay. So now, if you just want to shout out, what are some of those, on your best list, what are some of the things that came to mind?
Honest.
Honest, okay. Keep shots. Consistent, okay. All right, what else?
Approachable,
Approachable,
Mentors.
okay.
supportive,
Motivated,
Professional.
Good communication.
Okay. What are some other things? Anything else?
served others on how you guys say it.
Served others, okay.
Encourages change.
Okay.
Continuous praise.
Continuous praise, okay.
Did anybody say good listener? I guess that's kind of the same as communication.
We'll put it up there.
Sincere.
Sincere. What else?
Develops culture.
Develops culture.
Did anybody say motivates? You did say
Motivating, yes, motivating. Anything left out?
I have open door on here.
Okay.
Because that was something that, I used to have this incredible boss and his door truly was always open. Even if he was terribly busy, he would just drop everything and come around the desk and sit in front of you and talk to you.
That's a nice memory. Like, it's funny how you can like have the memory that connects to the word, right? Anything else that missed the list? How many of you all also had some of these things, like whatever you said, some commonalities, right? Okay, so how many of you all had a longer worst list? Okay, good deal. Okay, so what are some things in the worst categories for you?
Doesn't listen.
Doesn't listen. Okay.
And I guess that also could go
Or
along with
listens
the-
but doesn't respond.
Yeah, or,
Okay.
Doesn't acknowledge the.
right, it doesn't pay attention, like when you're talking to them, they're on their phone or.
Okay. Doesn't respond. Therefore, you don't know that they're listening, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Judgmental.
Judgmental.
Inconsistent.
Inconsistent. Yeah, some of these may very well be the opposites, right?
Yeah. Intimidating.
Intimidating.
I actually used to have a boss that yelled at people.
Yeah, I have explosive.
Explosive, okay. Okay.
Non-communicative, they're just not
Yes.
open.
Blames others.
Blames others, okay.
Negative.
Micromanaging.
Negative outlook.
No trust.
Okay.
Controlling.
Controlling. Anything else?
Incompetent.
Incompetent. It happens, right?
No backbone. One of the worst bosses I had is had no backbone at all.
No backbone.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. I knew the list would be longer. What else?
But like not, like I didn't say this on the best, but I should have, like someone who's proactive is a very,
Proactive, yeah, we can add that.
sets goals and is proactive. That being said, someone who's just reactive
Okay.
for the worst and not planning for anything.
Yes.
And then everything's an emergency because,
Okay.
because I didn't plan for it.
Okay. Anything else that needs to go up there?
Unavailable.
Unavailable, okay.
Doesn't do what they say they're gonna do. Doesn't keep promises. Or,
Doesn't keep promises, no follow through.
yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Just their work on others.
Okay, let's see. Over delegates, I don't know, but, too much work on others.
Or still your work.
Oh, okay.
Or credit.
Or, okay, take credit for work, for others' work. Okay. Okay. Anything else? All right, so in observing these two lists, what are some observations that you have?
When you start talking about the worst, it gets me aggravated.
I know, my blood pressure just went up.
You start thinking about the people you deal with that are like that.
Yes.
It makes you aggravated.
Yes, it does, right? What else? What are some things missing on here? Or how would you just, yeah, it does bring back memories, right? Like here is like warm and fuzzy and you had that great description, and then here, like, you could hear like one thing being said and then everybody like shifts in the seat, you know? Well, what would you describe both of these lists, the descriptions on there? What would be a term to describe?
90% of it's personality.
Okay, or soft skills, right?
Right.
It's interesting what stands out in the end. Like if you work in a chemistry lab, no one described they were a really great mathematician, or they were a titrator.
Yeah.
A titrator. It's always like, what is that? No. But it's interesting at the end of the day what stands out in our minds, right? Of what makes someone a strong leader and what makes someone a weak leader. Like nothing up here probably is in the first part exactly of a job description, right? It's not exactly what we can go to school for, right?
Yes.
I mean,
That's true.
you can study it a little more maybe on a master's level, maybe if you reach out on your own. But these are what matter at the end of the day, right? So one thing that I think very much needs to go hand in hand with, we're going to get to talking about ropes courses and more of like the physical team building opportunities where you kind of take yourself out of your normal environment. But I think just as important, like I said before, is that personal reflection time, and a great tool to start off any conversation are personality indicator tests. There's all different versions of things out there. How many of you all have done the Myers-Briggs test? Okay. That, I've never seen, I've always seen a group going into it, like everybody kind of has better things to do right then, and people get started, then they kind of, you hear that, like, I don't know how this is going to say anything about me, those things. But I love when, like, the results are passed back out, right? And everyone's reading them, and there's all these gasps, like, how do they know me? I can't wait to show this to my wife or my husband. Like, I can't, and then they're trying to figure out.
want to show them?
I don't want to show them, yes. But it's a great tool to start a conversation, is a personality assessment. Again, I think anytime you're doing it in a group setting, the time for processing is so important, and so much you can learn in the room when you then have activities of those like-minded people, okay, of what like personality science has said are like-minded. For instance, I just recently, following a Myers-Briggs workshop, saw an activity that I thought was a lot of fun. We don't have time today. I feel like everything's a little abridged today. But the activity was the T's and the F's, the thinkers and the feelers. Those two groups were separated. And lots of times if you're worried if you don't have enough people to separate enough, think about it like that. Like, even if you have 5 people, you can kind of probably separate your T's from the F's. What they had, the activity was, for each group was to design a poster advertising a Valentine's Day sale or a Valentine's Day promotion to the other group. So the feelers had to draw an ad that would attract the thinkers. And the thinkers had to draw an ad that would attract the feelers. And it just led to really fun conversation. And it was really funny listening to the T's laugh and talk about like, oh my gosh, we probably should put a puppy. And then like, stars in her eyes. And it was a really great, a little bit different activity. For you who haven't done Myers-Briggs before, there's 4 letters that you end up being. And so you're either a T or you're an F as your 3rd letter. So that's where that came from. But there's great activities that anyone who is certified to perform the test, I would recommend definitely allowing the time and asking about the processing. Does that make sense? Let's see. True Colors, I already mentioned once. True Colors is personally my favorite personality assessment. I'm also excited. In my last performance review, which was a month ago, I asked about becoming certified in True Colors. So by the end of the summer, I'll be a certified True Colors facilitator. And how many of you all have done True Colors before? Okay. All right. True Colors is sort of more on the idea of that character continuum, that you're not a T or an F, that we all are made up of some parts of the whole, right? And so there are 4 colors, green, blue, yellow, and orange. Green is kind of the more strategic thinker, big picture, questions things. The blue is more highly sensitive. I'm stereotyping a little bit. Yellow, organization. They love organization, order, and systems. And then orange would be the ones who went right here to extrovert first. They love people. They gain all their energy from other people. However, what the True Color Assessment does is just ranks those colors for you. Okay? And I love the processing of True Colors. I think that's one of my favorite things about True Colors is what, like I've also heard it described, whatever your first color is probably true. Sometimes, you'll have 2 colors that according to the day or according to the situation you're in at work or the situation you're in at the family may go back and forth. But that's who you truly are. Whatever your second color is may be how you may be perceived at work or how somebody who doesn't know you real well yet sees you as being the second color. The 3rd color is maybe what you pretend to be in your head. For me, yellow is my 3rd color, and I do love the idea of organization, and I do actually really love systems, but that's not really who I exactly am. And then the 4th color is probably the 4th color are going to be the people you love and hate the most in your life, to be perfectly honest. And I feel like the first time I did True Colors was when I was 15, and I've probably done it on a 4 or 5 year, been a part of the group who did it. And I'm as excited every time to do that. So I'm really excited to kind of add that to my tool belt and be something else that we can do there at the 4-H Center. 4-H is big on True Colors, and so that's a personality assessment that you often see, especially usually starting kind of with teens. Kind of on that note, sorry, this is kind of small. I'll turn the lights on a second. It's interesting when we kind of think about when you do get an assessment, a personality assessment, right? And if you dwell too much on things that you really want to be, have any of you all had that experience? Like, kind of like me, and super organized and tidy, not me. I saw this chart somewhere and thought it was kind of an interesting thing to think about in how to sort of categorize some things that are probably unchanging of what makes you you. That introvert, extrovert, that top thing, I've always heard it said that Introverts can learn extrovert behavior much easier than an extrovert can learn introverted behavior. But at the end of the day, where we draw our energy is going to be the same place. You know, whether, you know, if you think about like what your ideal Friday evening is, right? Is it to, right when 5 o'clock hits, just the amount of time it takes for you to get to your favorite restaurant, to meet a group of friends, and then roll right into your weekend? Or do you want to go home, put on comfortable clothes, hang out with your pet, maybe you call up one friend or a spouse? Those, at the end of the day, probably aren't going to change. I love the second one, and that's probably why I copied down this list. I loved urban and country. You know, I'm someone, I grew up originally I lived in Russell County, went to school in Tazewell County, and then I went to college out of high school to Philadelphia. And for me, whenever anyone asked me, you know, well, what do you like the best? I always just said, well, it's two different worlds. And that was like that's really what I mean. You know, I didn't really like one or the other, but I really like that on this list, so I, you know, added it. And then your innate strengths. You know, you always hear that some people are just natural born leaders. I the other day said, whether you consider that rising to the top or falling to the bottom as leaders, one way or another. Things that are possible to change may not be easy, but you can work at it. You can either work at it personally with yourself, or as a leader or a coach of others or a manager of others, you can maybe add some support. If someone's really shy, you can work toward being more outgoing. Competitiveness, whether people need to be a little more competitive or a little less competitive, it can be worked on. It might be painful. I've also heard for these that are possible, may not be easy, is if you can create sort of a buddy system of keeping each other in check. Like I was in a meeting not long ago where the presenter had someone in the room that they had a signal for when they were just like talking way too fast. So they share what they're working on with someone. And so if competitiveness is a problem that you have, if you share that with someone that you trust, that can kind of keep you in check. Kind of, I don't know, swear jars. Yeah, y'all heard of a swear jar? If somebody has an issue with language, that every time you observe that, they put a quarter into the jar. A little bit of the same idea. Holding on or letting things go, that taking things too personally, or not being able to let things go, which on a work level, it's hard to, that is a skill we need to learn, right? In a professional world, generally, it's going to be harder if you can't let things go, right? That's something that I think definitely can be worked on. I put intensity and energy here. Some people, and this is one that relates very much to our world with hiring camp staff. A really great camp staff member, we talk about maybe 50% is the song and the games and how much the kids love them. The other 50% is that they are an employee of the 4-H Center. I have to be able to have a conversation with them that doesn't include a song, which sometimes is a challenge. But to kind of wrangle energy, it's a little hard if somebody doesn't have the enthusiasm. That might be a little bit of a harder angle at least in my mind. But you can still do it, right? Maybe giving them more ownership, or think about the culture. Like how do you get your team more excited about what you're doing? More or less sensitivity is kind of the same one. Decision making is one that this fella felt like you definitely can work on. There's actually lots of tools out there, if you just look online, about decision-making matrices. Have any of you all ever seen these before? I always laugh anytime I've sat through one of those workshops, because I'm like, yes, if every time I had to make a decision, if I got out this 3-page paper and I wrote down at least 10 alternatives and then compared them. But sometimes, if you quickly break that down in your head, it does actually help. Okay? Any questions so far? I feel like this is a very much just a teaser of anything, but I appreciate y'all. Okay. So, I just recently, at a conference, a keynote speaker talked about we're kind of in an age of a new leader and what we want leaders to be now. And these were 5 comparisons that were shared and a way of thinking of serve versus rule. And someone said that, right? Serve others. If you think about the columns made here of the best traits and the worst traits, and then think about these comparisons, it makes a lot of sense and something that can kind of work toward. So serving versus ruling, coaching versus controlling, empowering versus constraining, influencing versus directing, and two-way versus one-way. And then also, just in kind of through my notes, doing a lot of thinking kind of on this topic of the idea of what your leadership legacy will be. And I think that that's a really kind of fun thing to think about. I've definitely been a part of the exercise where you write basically like your roast at your retirement party, like what you hope your roast will include. And I love the people in the room are like, she looks so young for her age. You know, it's like, but that's a fun activity. And there are lots of activities, you know, kind of like the little activity we did in the beginning that, you know, doesn't put people too far out of their comfort zone. So, any questions about that?
So your leadership legacy, in general, the only person you can change is yourself.
It's true.
So let's just, again, let's play devil's advocate here, and let's say that somebody or all of us feel like we're leaders, but we feel like somebody else is standing in our way. How do you get around that to be that leader that you think you could be?
Another wonderful question. Anybody else in the room that would like to step up? It is a good question.
You can't change what you can't change, but you work on what you can change, work on what you do have power.
And I would say don't fear complacency. Like maybe it's time for you to do some investing in yourself. Actually, a great program that I was just getting ready to talk about, and some of you all I know have been a part of it and may currently be, is the Leadership Washington County program here in Washington County. I was a part of the group of 2010, and I'll be honest, when I walked in the door after a long day of work and Barry Fireball wanted me to tell him what kind of car I would be if I could be a car, I kind of wanted to hit my head against the table because I was like, oh no. But that is truly a program that I gained a whole lot from, and just networking alone, not only what I kind of learned about myself, but there are things that obviously it takes a little bit of money to do those, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nita, you can pay for your own tuition into Leadership Washington County, right?
You can make installments on that.
And you can make installments. So I would say there's also leadership development programs through some universities. I believe the University of Richmond has some things that you can do, like just online work to better yourself. And I mean, to be honest, maybe start looking elsewhere. Like it is hard when you can only, you can only change yourself. I would say sometimes we kind of are creatures of comfort, right? And we kind of, that voice in the back of our head says, well, it could be that much worse. But, you know, it also could be that much better. Like in no way am I suggesting everyone go quit their jobs today. But maybe, hey. But at the same time, I think I would just look for ways to improve yourself. I was also going to say, those of you all who may not have large budgets to work on this stuff, this Noontime series, there's lots of great information that, you know, if you come on your own lunch break or can bring other employees with you on a lunch break to build yourself or your team, I would look for resources out there because I feel like Chamber of Commerce's, places like this, the Small Business Incubator, there are resources out there that you can kind of start building yourself. There are other programs, you know, very expensive, but like Leave Virginia, like there are discounts available if you really kind of want to give yourself a boost. But it makes a huge difference just getting some of those workshops under your belt. And as far as like the personality assessments and things, you can do those on your own. You can purchase like a subscription online. You can do them online, or you can sign up to go and just be a part of a class that does the testing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them online for free that are
There are.
available. I used to work for a company that was huge on personality profiles, so we were constantly doing the DISC assessment was one that we gave to every employee that came through the door, and then everybody would get color coded on their door what color they were, so that
Yes.
you, before you walked into that was something you would look and go, oh, how do I approach this? I have to.
Yeah.
We all had little cards on how to approach each personality. It was fabulous.
That's
And
great.
it was at that time, we paid for it, but now there's modified versions online for free.
And there are a lot of modified versions. The one thing I would say to watch out for with that is just be sure you can get enough support for that processing afterwards of like where the conversation needs to go from there. Because sometimes, like I think you said, you don't want anyone to see what you just learned about yourself. Like we did in this management academy that I'm a part of right now, we did a something 360. I'm so sorry, I just drew a blank. But anyway, where you basically ask others to assess you, and then we were paired with executive coaches to work with for 2 follow-up meetings. And I mean, that's, you know, there were a lot of people who were like definitely like set way back in their chairs, like reading. It's anonymous, the feedback, and you know, I think everyone was impressed with the time and thoughtfulness put into it. And you know, it's funny, you hear people in the room that's like, wow, I shouldn't have sent this to just those people, or wow, I can tell I only sent this to people I liked, or you know, that balance. And I think those are the things where a little bit of pre-work helps. Okay? Any questions or comments? Okay. So we're gonna jump in a little bit with actually, that was a great segue, of kind of doing your homework. You can find lots of resources for support on developing your personal leadership styles, and also team building opportunities and avenues and venues that you can travel to. We are going to now do a little shameless promotion of what we have available here in Washington County. And I think I already said that, Craig was a part of Leadership Washington County last year, right?
Correct.
And I was really excited to have him go through the program. He was new to our area, so you know, the county tour and all those things were very, very applicable to him. And I was so excited that his team's final project chose to focus on the leadership and team building development activities we have available at the 4-H Center. So first off, I've talked a little bit. We've been there since 1960. You all may not know, we sit on 78 acres just outside of town limits on Hillman Highway. We're only a mile and a half off of Main Street. So every now and then, and I think it's just because, you know, the magic of camp as when you were a kid, if you went there to camp, it felt like you were way out. But we're only a mile and a half off of Main Street. Very accessible, but we have 78 acres. We have rec fields, the ropes courses, forest, lodging, dining, and conference facilities. We can do programs ranging from residential camps to day camps, school day and overnight field trips, team building, leadership development, and the ropes courses. Part of our mission and our motto is all about experiential hands-on learning. And our programs are operated by trained staff and customized to fit groups' needs. Craig's going to talk about not only our staff's training and certifications, but also our facilities themselves. We have annual inspections of our courses that are very serious. And you know, those guys have the best jobs in the world. You know, going and testing zip lines every day. I guess in their minds, they would be on like one side of the room, right? And for all those people who would never want to test a zip line, they're on the other side, right? Okay. So some of our meeting space, you know, we're more than happy to provide everything from a half-day ropes course or facilitation to, you know, several days if folks want to stay. Our Dickinson Conference Center, we can sleep just around 50, about 45 people, what I describe in like state park-like lodging. Very clean, comfortable, linens provided, private bathrooms, not what you imagine 4-H camp to be. Lots of people don't know we have that facility. We do, however, have the lodge with, 24 bunk beds in the room if you want more of a rustic experience, which we do every now and then with adults. We do it all the time with children. This talks a little bit about our other spaces. We also have a Junior Olympic fishing pool. No, a Junior Olympic swimming pool, fishing pond. He talks a bit about the other. Some things that you can count on getting, I think, out of off-site. There's something to be said for being able to be out of your workplace, right? It pulls things into a different context, and you can have, be in a different mindset. We also talk about, and Craig will probably talk a little bit about this, of the fact that during our activities led by our facilitators, we do not designate this is the supervisor, these are the employees. Everyone's kind of on common ground. Now, everyone's not required to participate, which we sometimes talk about as kind of a plus and a minus, but you don't want to pull people too far out of their comfort zone. So improve morale, leadership skills, find barriers that thwart creativity, communication, help to clearly define objectives and goals, improve process and procedure, improve organizational productivity, identify team strengths and weaknesses, improve ability to problem solve, and I always think it really kind of taps into hidden potential. Like, I feel like there's yet to be a group that you learn something about everyone in those situations. And our staff is prepared also to work with whoever's setting it up if there are certain goals that you want to work on. Like if communication, if you're having a major issue with communication breakdown, to simply, I don't always said dwell on, but I guess I do mean kind of dwell on things that will build communication. So, without me continuing to talk anymore, I'm going to turn this over to Craig to talk more specifically about the ropes capabilities at the 4-H Center.
All right, so I do want to talk just a little bit of background because, you hear ropes and stuff, kind of knowing about it, I do want to give you some background on what we have and why the process is to get trained like I am trained, what that kind of deals with. So we have a company called Challenge Design Innovations, and they are peer-reviewed and run at the highest standards of a national organization called the Association for Challenge Course and Technology, ACCT. You don't have to remember that. The point of it is that there is a company that comes annually. They inspect all of our challenge courses, the zip line, all the low ropes elements, that sort of thing. So we do get inspected annually, and it is required that we have to meet their standards for what they consider to be safe and for their challenge courses. And any repairs that need done, those need to be done before someone can even get on that element, right? So we do go through a vigorous process of getting our stuff inspected so we know that it's up to par, it's safe, it's doing what it's designed to do. And then also myself and Chris Mann, who also works at the 4-H Center, we are level 1 practitioner certified, which means that we can do all low ropes elements and high ropes elements. We are trained in team building, we are trained in all those elements, and we are trained on being able to facilitate like high ropes elements like zip line. And we have to get trained every year as well. We have to pass a written and a practical exam. And so that is from someone who is also nationally certified to be a trainer, right? So, we have to maintain our hours, Chris and I, we have to keep up our facilitation. Like, I just can't get trained and then sit around and then never have to worry about it. Like, I gotta keep up my skills, I gotta keep up the facilitation that I'm doing. So it is a big process, kind of what we have behind us that supports what the low rope stuff and also the team building stuff actually is. You guys talk a lot about these best and the worst. You talked kind of different type of what makes what. And some of the stuff with the team building and the ropes course, they focus on a lot of these things that you can help work with not just leaders but also amongst coworkers. So things like cooperation, right? Things like communication, problem solving, trust building, being able to listen, obviously with communication as well. Nonverbal communication does a lot with that. There's support and goal setting. So there's a lot of stuff that we do within the team building and in the low ropes elements that work on those sort of things that you guys have already identified as stuff that is important to make somebody go from worst to best, right? A lot of the soft skills is what kind of this team building really focuses on. So a little bit about what the day looks like for an activities of this sort of a program. As Robyn said, I work with whoever we contact, and sometimes it's the supervisor, sometimes the HR person who is setting it up. But I can work, and we can customize, what needs to happen. So you would show up if it's like a one-day event. You would show up. We do some activities. We start, because within all this team building and these low ropes, there's a progression that needs to be done, right? I'm not going to set up and have a group come the first time that I see them, and I'm not going to put you on the one where you have to lift people up and over a beam that is 3.5 to 4 feet high up, right? I'm just not going to start you on that. So we do a progression where people are able to start off slow. We get kind of doing get to know you games, icebreakers, a little more harder, challenging activities, and then we can go to the low ropes where you're actually physically doing things. You're on ropes about 2.5 feet off the ground, doing more stuff that is more physically and mentally challenging, right? So a half day really looks like you come in, we do a bunch of activities. If there's lunch involved, we stop, we do lunch, we kind of regroup, and then we go back out and we do some more activities, do some more of that low rope stuff. We can provide lunch services at the 4-H Center, so that is part of the package, or if a group decides they want to all bring their own lunch, that's also available as well. And then for like the overnight or the couple-day event, you show up, we do a bunch of activities. Again, there's meals that are provided. As Robyn mentioned, we do have lodging that is available. We also have plenty of meeting spaces. So not only for these, for this retreat, that might be like an overnight event. We're not just going to, we don't have to do activities. They can be set up so that you actually have time to meet and you have time as a group to talk about it in your own way, but also be productive, right? You said time, right? There's not a lot of time to do some of the stuff, right? You have a lot of things are on the plate. Well, there's also that opportunity to do these sort of multiple day retreats where you make time to still be productive. You still make time to say, okay, we need to accomplish this because this is due at the end of the week anyway. So you have time that you're doing these team building, you're working together, you're finding out more about yourself, and you're learning some of these skills that we talked about that are better skills. But then you also have some time where you can meet, you can focus on what you need to get done, and so it kind of works both ways. So there's that overnight, multiple day things. They can definitely be where you're lodging, you're eating, and you're on site, and we're doing a bunch of activities, and we can go and start from the very beginning, and we can move all the way up until kind of the highest thing. Maybe you end with a zip line, so everyone gets to kind of self-challenge themselves to go down a zip line, right? So, it's okay. So with the overnight stuff, there's just obviously there's just more time to do activities, and then there's more time that you guys can meet as well. So what I'm going to do is, again, what Robyn mentioned about the Leadership of Washington County, my group was, at the end of each group, with the Leadership of Washington County, each team has to do a project, and then it has to be presented. And that project has to involve something that helps the community in some sort of way. So my group decided, and I promise you I did not push this, all right? But my group identified that, first off, they figured out we can do this, and like, oh my gosh, how great would this be to be able to offer this to the community that doesn't know that it's actually out there and possible. So with my group, Team Blue, we put together this video, a PowerPoint, and a brochure, which everyone, I'll pass out afterwards, and you can grab as many as you like, for our project. So this video is just what we put together from the actual project we did ourselves. So they're going around cones at this point. Not, they're not just picking it up and putting it down. Just so everyone, they have obstacles they have to maneuver around.
And that's a good example of someone kind of their personal comfort level of, you know, the team there ready and willing to support them, or if they wanted to try it on their own.
We won't watch it. So, as you can see, you know, stuff that we're doing, kind of these team building activities, but then you saw a couple of, for example, when I was on with, that was Mark, and we were walking across what we call the Wild Woozies, what it's called. There's also a good mixture of individualized kind of self-challenges, and you know, that's very important when you're building group and teamwork and support, that you allow also there's these activities to challenge individuals and safe risk taking, right, is what we kind of also do there too. So it's good when the individuals can stand out and then they can feel good and they can build self-confidence, because you need that as you're going to succeed as a group as well. When you're going to work it together, you have self-confidence, you have self-worth that you can perform in the group and you can do what you need to do, also helps succeed the group as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple quick activities. We don't have much time, so I'm not going to do a lot. I'm not going to be very physical. Don't worry, I didn't bring a rope that we have to walk across. I promise you.
Craig, just since we are running kind of close, I'm going to go ahead and hand out these brochures. Our contact info is up here and also on the back of these brochures. And before the activities, does anyone have any questions on anything?
Cool. All right.
All right.
So as those get handed out, if everyone will get up and come to the inside of the tables as well, please. So with a lot of the stuff that, and we're not going to get to go too deep into a lot of stuff that we can do based upon time, but as I said, there's a progression, right? And I know, well, none of you probably might not never know each other anyway, but even if you do know, we're all going to pretend that we work together as employees, right? Because usually people that come to this, they're already in business, they're already employees, so everyone somewhat knows each other, right? But maybe you just know somebody at a personal, not at a personal level, just strictly business level, right? You go to work with them, you know that they like sticky notes, but that's basically the extent of what you know about them, right? So one of the things that I like to start with is I got to do these kind of getting to know you different games, right? So that you can feel a little more comfortable with some people. So we have, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Perfect. Robyn, we're just going to demonstrate since this is an equal group. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out 3 different descriptives, right? And you're going to pair up when I call that word out, right? And you're going to stay with that person. And then once you get with that person, I will call out an example. I'll say something like, what is your favorite shoe brand and why? Right? And so you tell your partner what your favorite shoe brand is and why you do it. It's not going to be that one, but it's the first thing that popped in my head for some reason. All right? So, but we're going to switch between each one. So for example, right, I'll say butterfly, okay? All right, so go find a partner and do this with them. Put your hand up like this, right? Thumbs, butterfly, right? All right, so you're going to do the thing, right, the butterfly, and then I'm going to say when you find your group, your partner, I'm going to say like the favorite shoe and tell me why. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so everyone find a partner right now. Just find a partner. And this will be your butterfly partner. Okay?
Butterfly partner. And you need to remember that.
Yes.
Remember that this is your
And
butterfly partner.
so when I yell the word butterfly, these are the people you go back to. All right? Because we're going to be switching. We're going to be moving groups. Okay? So that's your butterfly person. All right? Next, right, there will be your salmon person. So put your hands like this. All right? You put your hands in between, and you do this. Like salmon swimming upstream. All right? So you have to do the activity. So find a new partner, and that will be your salmon partner. Okay? All right. So this is your salmon partner. All right. So when I say salmon, that's who you go to. All right. And then the next one will be, I'll say the word create, and you make up a handshake between the two of you. It's new partners, though. All right. So create, just go and find somebody that's going to be a new partner and create a handshake. Okay. Everyone good? All right. So when I say those 3 descriptives, you find that partner, do whatever it is. If you're the butterfly, you do the butterfly or whatever. And then I will say a sentence, and you guys describe and answer that to your partner, and then your partner will then answer that to you. Does that make sense? All right. So, salmon. All right, you find them? All right. Your favorite hobby and why? Okay? All right. Create. Go to your create person, whoever you create your handshake to. Who's that partner? All right. What do you want to do when you retire, and why? All right, because of time, butterfly, go find your butterfly. All right, and your favorite food and why. All right, perfect. So, obviously this is really abridged and I'm kind of quickening the pace of stuff, right? So I would do this maybe 1 more time, 2 more times, depending upon how many people we had and how much time we had. But with this activity, tell me why this activity would even be used. Why would I do this activity with a group of people for this team? Okay, icebreaker. Why? You get to know why is this important though? Like why?
Just team building, so that you know something about them, and you might have something in common, or.
Okay, so you're finding some similarities. Comfort, right? You're building a little more comfort. Because I'm having you switch partners, right? So you're going to different people. You at least have 3 different people that you're having a connection with and you're talking with, right? How does that, might that build as you're moving forward with working together? What might this comfort and getting to know people build? Okay, so self-awareness and trust and self-confidence, right? Can you work, commonalities, right? Can you work in a team when you really only know that this person likes sticky notes, right? Like how successful are you as a group and as employees working together when all you know is that they like sticky notes? And that's as best as you can know, right? Now, I'm not saying obviously that everyone dives in and you know from when you were born all the way up until you're right? Because there are people that there are comfort of what you want to share with people, and I get that.
And there's comfort of what you want to know.
Exactly, right? And that's why when you do this, I didn't go into like what's your family, I don't go into personal stuff. You go into things that are a little more out, normal that you can talk about and feel kind of a little bit comfortable, but it's not just like, oh yeah, I wear jeans and that's just kind of what I like to do, right? I mean, you're going a little more in depth, right? So it's important that as you work with teams, as you're working with people, you start to know a little bit about these getting to know you things and know about each other so that you can find these similarities, get this comfort with them, get this trust built, so that as you're working on goals and accomplishing tasks, you are able to already have this predetermined, pre-established type of trust and build and all that, right? All right, so another activity quickly that we're going to do.
Well, hold on, while he's
Yes.
getting his props ready, I just want to let you know, and Kathy, this is actually a great way in case you're a team member and your boss isn't super excited about doing something like this. We have a prize today. For those of you all who are here, we're going to do a drawing for a half day, 4 hours with facilitator on the low ropes course. The coupon is good for 5 to 12 participants, then with a 15% discount for any additional participants, food service, or an additional rental fee.
Thanks.
Okay? So at the end of this activity, we'll draw.
All right, so this activity, all of you are one group. All of you have to stay on this mat. You have to flip the mat over without stepping off the mat. No part of your body can get off the mat. All right?
We'll all see it. I know how to do that.
So you're all on the mat at one time. It has to be flipped over completely, but none of you can step off. Any body part touches the ground on the outside of it, then you have to start from the very beginning. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool? All right, you're up. All of you are one group. And I'll tell, when everyone's ready, I'll say start. All right? Once everyone's on and you guys think you're ready. No, all of you. No. I've seen it. I've seen it easily done. All right. Well, easily. That's not. I was just trying to help. Everyone ready? You guys think you're good? Because you're a group now. So whenever you think you're ready, we'll start. All right, go.
You have to flip it this way. So you're going to have to tuck this. Under. Okay, and if you lay it down, we can step on it.
Yeah.
Lay it down so we can step on it. No, it's got to tuck under. It's got to tuck under.
So some of us will have to move up this way, I believe, so the bottom area can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, everybody move over here. Okay, for a minute.
Where?
No, on top.
Where you are.
No, everybody move on to this.
And then, yeah. Come all the way. All the way over. All the way over. No, God. I don't know. Usually you can pull, you gotta be able to pull all of this. Everybody needs to get on this corner. Like, just barely get their feet here so that you can pull this all the way under. Come over. Squeeze in.
Okay.
Way in, way in.
I'll usually make that stuff.
But that's okay. So,
All right.
there.
Fun.
Do you want to keep going? Let's get it close. All right, so we'll stop. No, I'm not going to tell you how. But, so obviously with time, I mean, I'm going to let you guys do it. Like, I don't ever stop a group, but because of time, I'm not going to keep you till who knows how late. But as you just think about some stuff, we'll talk briefly, we'll debrief just a bit. As you're thinking about this, what are some things that happen? As a group, what are things that happened while you guys were doing this?
We ignore the personal boundaries.
Okay, so you did break some personal boundaries situation, okay. What else was going on, or what else maybe needed to happen to help the group succeed a little bit better?
More teamwork.
Okay, a little more teamwork, a little more communication, all right?
Have a plan, like a plan that everybody was on,
Right.
understood.
So I said in the beginning, tell me when you're ready, and I'll say start, right? And you guys are like, all right, we're ready. And then, what did you guys do once I said start? Then you started what?
Doing without talking.
Trying to figure out, trying to do, right? You were into it already. Now you're like, oh, well, now we gotta wait. Can we do this?
Yeah.
Oh, let's just kind of, right? There's a lot of that
That's
sort of
right.
thing. So with this and with a lot of stuff, again, like, you know, we're building a lot of these soft skills that you guys just described were what you thought were great as leaders, right? Those things that you had. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to do is going to build those skills so that you become a more effective team, you become more effective as you work together, as you create tasks, and as you're setting these goals and problem solving in real world situations. Because I always extrapolate this as we talk. The next thing out of my mind would be, okay, what about in your workplace? How does this relate, right? Because each workplace is a difference. And I want, as team members coming and being part of the program, for you to make that connection of, oh, that's right. As HR people, this is what makes sense to me, what we're doing, and how this can help us. As maybe someone who is a leader and a supervisor, they can say like, oh, wow, this makes total sense now. Why every time I talk to one of my employees, they look at me and like don't want, you know, so we're building this sort of stuff as we're doing it. Does that make sense? Anyone want to add anything that kind of, I know they are super quick and super kind of, not as, you know, I definitely go into a lot more depth as we do them than the quick kind of follow through, but it's awesome. Well, thank you.
Don't forget to draw your number.
Yes, we're going to draw a number and we're going to see who gets the
And I
prize.
didn't finish the rest of my sentence, but this would be a great thing to approach your boss. Hey, today I won. We should do it for free.
Oh, thank you, sir. Awesome. Where are you going? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to draw a number? All right, and that's your number. Okay, so earlier I asked Jennifer, right? Jennifer back there? Yes, to choose a number, and she chose number 10. Who's got number 10? Oh, awesome. Congratulations. Oh, there we go. All right, well, do you all have any, and you're welcome, you can donate it to someone.
Town of Avenue.
So, all right, does anyone have any questions or any kind of follow-up?
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, well, we really appreciate you all today, and this was really just kind of a glimpse into a much bigger can of worms.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Very good.
I just realized I just gave you trash.
Oh, it happens all the time, yes. Well, thank you all so much, and feel free to contact us with any questions. We're happy to help.
And next week we have Consumer Protections, new consumer protection regulations for business next week, and the week after that is doing business with the sales within the government.
Thank you.
So, please join us and your schedule, and we will do our very best to find speakers to facilitate that. So, thank you for coming.